Welcome to the JetLev Basic Flight Training video. The purpose of this video is to show you, the new pilot, how the JetLev works and how to learn to fly on your own within minutes of entering the water. The JetLev is a revolutionary development that uses water jets to power personal jetpack flight above water. Its inherent stability and intuitive controls make it quite easy to learn. And although you would not fly any higher than 30 feet or above 25 miles per hour, there are some eligibility requirements for safety reasons. You should be able to swim, in good health and physical condition, and you should not be uncomfortable to have your face in the water from time to time. You must be at least 18 years of age, body weight between 90 and 260 pounds, and height between 5 feet and 6 feet 6 inches. Your training will be organized into 3 sections: on-land training and fitting, on-water training with instructor remote control of the throttle, and on-water practice with the pilot controlling the throttle. We will touch on safety issues at the end of this session. The 3 main components of the JetLev system are the jetpack, hose assembly, and pump unit. The pilot wears the jetpack, which contains all the controls needed for controlled flight: left control arm, right control arm, throttle twist grip, start-stop switch, and safety lanyard. These are the thrust nozzles, where water shoots out under pressure to provide thrust in the opposite direction. They work exactly the same way as in a personal watercraft. Don't be alarmed by the water jets. The nozzle pressures are roughly equivalent to city water pressures, the only difference being much higher flow rates. As you move the control arms together to this position, all thrust are applied towards creating lift, and you do not move forward or backward. We call this the neutral position. If you move your arms downward from this position, the nozzles begin to swing rearward and generate propulsion to push you forward while lift is reduced. The throttle twist grip is used to vary the power output from the engine in the pump unit from idle to full throttle. That in turn changes the power of water delivered through the hose assembly to your jetpack. For more power and greater height, twist to the right. Did you catch the rhyme here? Twist right for height. This will help you remember the correct direction to twist the throttle grip. Except during the first part of your training, it will be up to you, the pilot, to determine the amount of throttle to use. Each throttle position corresponds to a given amount of thrust, which in turn is up to you to decide how much to use for lift or altitude, and how much to use for propulsion or speed. By adjusting the angle of the control arms and nozzles, the closer the nozzles are to pointing straight down, the higher and slower you'll fly. As a beginner, your goal is to maintain a steady forward speed at a moderate altitude. If you make frequent adjustments to control arm angles, you will find yourself changing altitude constantly, which may make it difficult to learn other maneuvers. There are 2 types of turns you can perform on a JetLev: the roll turn and the yaw turn. A roll turn is usually performed while in forward flight and is achieved by shifting body weight in the direction of the turn. As the jetpack rolls toward that direction, the sideways component of the jet's thrust increases, causing you to turn in that direction. A yaw turn is one where you turn about your vertical axis while remaining in a more or less vertical body position, such as while you're in a hover. It is achieved by lowering the control arm on the side you want to turn and by raising the other control arm. The phrase, "where you go, that arm low," may help you remember this maneuver, or you may remember it as the way you would turn the steering wheel of a car to initiate a turn. We recommend that you combine both yaw and roll for making the smoothest turns. Now that you understand how the JetLev works, let's get you fitted for flight training. The fitting instructor will fit you with a personal flotation device, set the length of the trapeze, and help you strap into the 5-point safety harness, and attach a safety lanyard to your right wrist. He or she will also demonstrate how to exit from the 5-point safety harness. Now that you've been fitted into the jetpack, let's take a closer look at the right-hand controls and familiarize yourself with floating positions, low taxi position, high taxi position, free flight, and landing. The right-hand controls consist of the throttle grip, start-stop button, and safety lanyard. At this time, the throttle grip should be rotated all the way to the left until it stops. This is the idle position. The JetLev engine should always be started in the idle position, and it should stay at this position until an instructor asks you to take over the throttle. When instructed, you will push the start-stop button to start the engine. To stop the engine, press the same button again, or you may want to pull the safety lanyard off its post. The low taxi position is where you are flying with the surface of the water at chest level. There are 2 purposes to this exercise. 1. To teach you, the student pilot, nozzle angle control in order to maintain a vertical body position using lower jet power. And 2. As a safe approach position prior to landing. Your instructor will bring you to a designated area where he or she will ask you to check that your throttle control grip has been turned all the way to the left or idle position. Once you signal to verify this, your instructor will ask you to push the start button on the bottom of the right-hand control grip. As you rise to the low taxi position, move the control arms in a slow, measured movements to find the position where your head would be kept out of the water and you are not moving forward or backward. This is the neutral position. Relax your legs and let them hang comfortably beneath. Take a minute to learn your balance and practice slow, measured movements of control arms to go forward. Stop. Short reverse, then back forward again. You will find that slow forward speeds provide the most stability. The instructor will move you to the next level when he or she feels you're ready. Some might be ready in less than a minute. Others may take longer. High taxi position is where the surface of the water is roughly at your knees level. The purpose of the high taxi is to allow you to practice forward flight, left and right turns at a slightly higher speed and altitude, while providing more stability by dragging your feet in the water. In this mode, you are learning how to maintain a steady speed and altitude for controlled flight. You can choose to fly higher and slower, or lower and faster with slight up and down adjustments of the control arms. Learn to avoid constant adjustments, or you will ascend and descend excessively. Keep the control arms steady. To begin a right turn, think of the control grips as a steering wheel in a car. Lower the right-hand grip and raise the left one to start the turn, while leaning into the turn as on a bicycle. Try a couple of large circles in each direction, then straighten out, followed by wide left and right slaloms. Repeat if necessary. Typically, a high taxi may last a minute or two. Free flight is when you fly with your feet out of water. As the instructor raises you out of the water, you will notice a tendency to tilt backwards. To compensate for this, pull the control arms down slightly. Once you are moving forward slowly, try to step lightly onto the trapeze 1 foot at a time, toes first. The trapeze will allow you to transfer some of your weight from your seat to your legs and will increase your comfort and stability while flying above the water. Again, practice maintaining a steady speed and altitude, and feel how slight adjustments in control arm angles will change your altitude and speed. Now practice your wide and tight slaloms again. After practicing this, your instructor will ask you to make a slow approach to a designated area to learn how to land safely in open water. Landing is the most critical maneuver because it involves transitioning through free flight, high taxi, and low taxi positions to come to a complete and controlled stop in a designated area. When landing in shallow water near shore, there are more hazards and risk of injuries are somewhat higher for a beginner. This is why we train landings in deep water. Your instructor will slowly reduce your thrust to a low taxi position. As you reach the landing point, raise the control arms in a number of slow, measured upward movements until your body is almost vertical and forward speed slows to a stop. Once you have landed, your instructor will ask you to check that your throttle grip is still turned all the way to the left to the idle position. Your instructor will now hand over the control of the throttle to you. When you are ready, slowly turn the throttle control grip to the right and practice your low taxi, then high taxi positions, practicing your turns right and left while making very smooth, measured throttle and control arm adjustments. Practice this until you feel in control, and try to raise yourself up to 5 feet above the water. Continue practicing your turns and smooth control adjustments. Practice landings in open water, bringing yourself down slowly to the high taxi, then approach the landing area in a low taxi position. At the landing spot, raise the control arms to come to a stop as you lower the throttle to touchdown. When your session is finished, you will be instructed by the traffic controller when and where to come into shallower water. Approach in a low taxi position. When you reach the landing spot, slowly raise the control arms as you reduce the throttle to aim for a perfect 2-point landing, upright with your feet resting on the bottom in chest-deep water. During your flight, you may have an unintentional landing. If this happens, push the start-stop button or pull the safety lanyard to cut the engine. Right yourself and face a direction away from shore and other boats towards deeper water. Check that the throttle grip is at idle. Insert the safety lanyard on its post. If necessary, restart the engine. Safety warning. Please be aware that any water sports involve inherent risk and may lead to personal injury or property damage. Never ride after consuming drugs or alcohol. Do not operate if you are pregnant or have other medical conditions that may affect your safety. Obey all instructions and navigational rules. If you are unsure of the water's depth, reduce altitude to a high taxi. Operate in a controlled manner at all times and maintain a minimum distance of 50 feet from boats and shore structures. Do not fly over swimmers or objects such as boats, marine animals, docks, shore, or water less than 8 feet deep. Do not race, dive underwater, or spray people or objects intentionally. If you wear prescription glasses or contact lenses, there is a high risk that you may lose them in a fall. Prescription goggles are not allowed due to the high risk of eye injury. We suggest using glasses with sports straps and protecting it by wearing a helmet. We hope you've enjoyed your basic flight